So Pokemon is kinda popular. With over 380 million copies sold worldwide, it's one of the biggest and most widely recognized franchises in the world. But with a big franchise comes a big fanbase, and with a big fanbase comes countless fan theories, lore analysis, and top 10 spooky facts you didn't know about Pokemon videos. Despite how cute and cuddly and kid-friendly Pokemon looks on the outside, it's a pretty well-known fact at this point that the series can get really dark. And by really dark, I mean really dark. As a kid, I spent countless hours watching Pokemon YouTubers list off the spookiest facts and theories about the franchise, so to bring things full circle, I present to you today the Dark Pokémon Iceberg. For the uninformed, an iceberg is essentially a big list of facts and theories relating to a specific topic, with the most common and well-known ones at the top of the iceberg and the most strange and obscure at the bottom. This iceberg has over 100 entries and includes the classics like Ash's Coma and Lavender Town, as well as some more obscure entries, so whether you're a complete newbie to the series or a Pokemon master, hopefully you'll learn something new. Before we dive into the iceberg, I do have a few quick disclaimers. Firstly, while not every entry is necessarily scary and some of them are more on the weird and interesting side, the iceberg does have a creepy theme, so we'll be discussing scary Pokemon, dark theories, creepypastas, etc. Just a content warning. Secondly, I made the iceberg using a lot of entries from these 3 icebergs as well as some of my own entries, so I can't take much credit for putting this one together. I pretty much just took what they wrote and combined it all into my own one. So credit to those icebergs, and their creators will be linked in the description. Finally, I didn't really want to do this because I usually like to keep my videos as like one big video. Due to time constraints and the fact that there are over 100 entries, I am going to be splitting this one into 2 parts. I'm not going to be doing this in the future, and like I said, this is mainly just out of necessity, so hopefully it's okay and you guys understand. I'll be covering half of the entries in this video and the other half in the next video, which should be coming out pretty soon after this one. With all of that out of the way, let's dive into the Dark Pokémon Iceberg. Before we get into things, I just want to give a huge thank you to Casetify for sponsoring this video. If you've watched my channel before, you know that I love working with Casetify because their phone cases are straight up amazing. I showed off this moisturized flourishing cat case last time, which I'm still obsessed with, but this time I think I'm going to change it up with one of these new designs. I'm a big fan of this heart case, but I think we gotta go for the Tumblr Sexy Man case today. But don't let Casetify's hundreds of super cool designs stop you, because you can completely customize your very own cases. You can choose from a huge range of colors and styles, and even add your own name or monogram to the back. You could add your name, or you could add Tumblr Sexy Man to the back. The options are truly endless. Not only do Casetify cases look super cool, but they have an antimicrobial coating that kills 99.9% of bacteria, and they're super tough. Casetify cases are engineered with a 2-layer construction of Chi-Tech and are drop tester proof for drops of up to 6.6 feet with their impact cases and 9.8 feet for the ultra impact cases. It's that time again. It's the time where I throw this Casetify case full speed at my wardrobe to test how strong these cases are. People keep doing this out of concern for the safety of my wardrobe. I will not stop. As you can see, the phone case is completely unharmed. If all that wasn't good enough, you'll be helping the planet, because Casetify's new Impact and Ultra Impact cases are made of 65% recycled and plant-based materials and are compatible with wireless chargers. Whether you're getting a new iPhone and want to protect it, you're looking for the perfect gift for a friend, or you just want to treat yourself, Casetify cases are super cool and super tough. Head to casetify.com/Izzy today to save 15% off. Once again, that's casetify.com/Izzy to save 15% off your order. The link will be in the description. A huge thank you to Casetify for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into the Dark Pokémon Iceberg. Lavender Town. Starting off this list with an absolute classic. Lavender Town was an eerie town introduced in the first generation of Pokemon games. The town story is based around the spirit of a Marowak who was murdered by Team Rocket, and the player is tasked with traveling through the Pokemon Tower, a large Pokemon graveyard filled with mourners and possessed channelers. But what players found most unnerving wasn't the murdered Pokemon or the trainers that want to drink your blood, it was the soundtrack. In 2010, the creepy tune created by composer Junichi Masuda gave way to one of the most infamous and iconic online creepypasta hoaxes, Lavender Town Syndrome. According to the story, upon the release of Pokemon Red and Green in 1997, over 3,000 Japanese children were reported as having their lives ended by themselves, if you know what I mean, after reaching the Lavender Town area. The children suffered nausea and headaches as well as irrational and dangerous behavior, and this illness was dubbed Lavender Town Syndrome. It was attributed to high frequencies found within the chiptune music, which could only be heard by children, and videos showing the spectrogram outputs of the music became became popular as people began editing creepy images and messages into them. Obviously, this whole thing was nothing but a creepy campfire story based around the fact that a lot of kids did find the Lavender Town theme creepy, but it gained so much popularity that over the years people began to just fully believe it. A lot of kids, including myself, were absolutely terrified of the Lavender Town theme tune to the point where if I heard like 2 beats of the song in a YouTube video, I would be exiting the tab immediately. It's claimed that while the creepypasta is fake, the original music did in fact cause headaches and dizziness due to binaural beats included in the soundtrack, but from what I can tell this seems to be another myth as evidence is lacking. The Lavender Town Syndrome myth really paved the way for Pokemon creepypastas and urban legends to come and made Lavender Town itself into a popular location for other creepypastas to take place in. I'm genuinely curious if other people as a kid were terrified of the Lavender Town theme and would like never listen to it, or if I was just super gullible. MissingNo. MissingNo is a famous glitch Pokemon found in Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. It's by far the most well-known glitch Pokemon due to its easy catch method as well as its strange and creepy behaviors. MissingNo can be found by watching the old man's demonstration of how to catch Pokemon in Viridian City, flying to Cinnabar Island, and surfing up and down the coast until you encounter it. MissingNo has several forms. Its most iconic form is this L-shaped block of corrupted purple textures, but it can also appear as a scrambled red and yellow block, a Lavender Town ghost sprite, or a Kabutops and Aerodactyl fossil sprite. MissingNo can be caught and used as a Pokemon and can learn a variety of moves. It's registered in the Pokédex as Pokemon 000 and is a dual bird/normal type, which is notable because bird types don't actually exist in the game. We'll be touching on bird types later on in the iceberg. Encountering MissingNo will duplicate the 6th item in the player's bag 128 times, which is often used as an exploit to get rare candies. MissingNo will also glitch the player's Hall of Fame and will sometimes cause graphical glitches throughout the game. The reason that MissingNo occurs in the game is because there are actually 256 Pokemon slots, but only 151 are actually used for Pokemon in the game. The other slots are filled with glitched Pokemon and MissingNos, which the developers put into the unused slots as placeholders. When performing the glitch, that one stretch of coastline on Cinnabar Island is programmed to spawn Pokemon, but for some reason the actual Pokemon types aren't defined. Depending on the letters in the player character's name, numerous Pokemon can spawn, including several glitch Pokemon. As weird as it sounds, MissingNo has kind of become a pop culture icon, credited by some as popularizing the entire Pokemon series, as well as glitch hunting and speedrunning in video games. The glitch has been mentioned in countless articles, books, and even published papers, and is believed by many to be one of, if not the most famous video game glitch in the world. MissingNo is truly legendary and a must-see on your trip to Cinnabar Island. Spender Doubles. Spender is an adorable normal type Pokemon introduced in Generation 3. In the grand scheme of things, it's rather unassuming with no evolutions and poor stats, but there's more to Spender than meets the eye. It sounds truly unbelievable, but the patterns on its fur are randomly generated and there are over 4.3 billion possible patterns. If you thought the odds for finding a shiny were tough, your odds of finding 2 Spenders with the same pattern is 1 in this number. And your odds of finding 2 shiny Spenders of the same pattern is 1 in over 8 billion. Ditto is a failed Mew clone. Looking at Ditto and Mew, it may seem that the two couldn't be more different, but fans have made some pretty interesting connections between the two. Both Ditto and Mew weigh exactly 8.8 pounds and have no gender. They have similar base stats and movesets and are the only 2 Pokemon who can naturally learn the move Transform at level 1. Furthermore, Ditto has 2 very specific spawn locations in Pokemon Yellow, the Pokemon Mansion and Cerulean Cave. This is significant as Mew's evolution Mewtwo was cloned from Mew within the Pokemon Mansion and then fled to Cerulean Cave where it made its home. Many believe that Ditto was originally written as a Mew clone, but the idea was scrapped during development, leaving only small traces of the two's connection behind. Ho-Oh immortality theory. In the very first episode of the Pokemon anime, Ash sees the legendary rainbow Pokemon Ho-Oh fly overhead. Ho-Oh's Diamond and Pearl Pokédex entry reads, quote, "It possesses 7 colored wings. It is said that those who see Ho-Oh are promised eternal happiness." A popular fan theory states that the reason that Ash never ages throughout the series is because his version of eternal happiness is remaining as a carefree 10-year-old never forced to grow up and always traveling the world and going on adventures. However, this has been disputed since Ash's dream is to become the very best like no one ever was, and being 10 years old forever would kind of get in the way of that. It's also never stated that Ho-Oh has any kind of magical wish-granting abilities, instead imbuing those who spot it with more of a general happiness in life. Electric Soldier Porygon. Denosenshi Porygon, also known as Electric Soldier Porygon, is one of the most widely circulated and infamous Pokemon stories, causing controversy worldwide. Electric Soldier Porygon was the 38th episode of the first season of the Pokemon anime, airing at 6:30 PM on Tuesday, December 16th, 16th, 1997 in Japan. In the episode, Ash and friends must help fix the Pokeball transfer system by traveling with the digital Pokemon Porygon into cyberspace to stop Team Rocket, who've set up a blockade inside the system. The less questions asked about the plot, the better. 20 minutes into the episode, Pikachu launches a Thunderbolt attack at an oncoming antivirus, causing an extended scene of flashing blue and red lights. This reportedly caused over 12,000 children to experience epileptic seizures and exhibit symptoms such as dizziness, blurred vision, nausea, and convulsions. The fallout was immediate and explosive, with a moral panic beginning to form around the Pokemon series. The episode was immediately pulled from the air and has never been broadcast since, and the television station that aired the episode issued an apology the next day. Meanwhile, the police were sent to question the anime's producers, and the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare called an emergency meeting about the anime. Nintendo shares dropped by 5%, and retailers across the country pulled Pokemon DVDs off the shelves. While this story is incredibly infamous and widely known, the truth is actually a little more complicated. While around 12,000 children did report symptoms, it's reported that only around 685 were taken to the hospital, and most symptoms cleared well in the ambulance, to the point that just over 150 were actually admitted into the hospital. Notably, many of the 12,000 cases have been attributed to mass hysteria, as news broadcasts played later that night after the episode aired, alerting viewers about the wave of epilepsy while playing footage from the episode. Not their brightest idea, I'm gonna be honest. This sent a second wave of children to the hospital, but investigator B. Radford, who co-authored a paper on the topic, noted that a relatively minuscule number of children actually exhibited symptoms of epilepsy, while others seemed to be afflicted with mass hysteria. So out of the 4.3 million households watching Pokemon that evening, only 150 people were admitted to hospital after suffering epileptic seizures, a far cry from the sensationalized thousands that news media across the globe were claiming. This was still a huge and scary number of hospitalizations though, and concerns over the episode were more than valid, though the moral panic that formed was a bit overblown. The anime eventually went back on air with stricter regulations about strobing lights and flashing images, and Pokemon was obviously able to recover from the smear on their reputation. Hilariously, in 2020, the official Pokemon Twitter account tweeted, "Porygon did nothing wrong," in reference to the fact that Pikachu actually caused the strobing lights, not Porygon, but this tweet was very quickly deleted. Too soon, Nintendo, too soon. Green Shinies. Shiny Pokemon are rare and uniquely coloured versions of regular Pokemon that players can encounter in the games. The base odds of finding a shiny Pokemon in the wild are around 1 in 8,192, so the majority of casual players may never encounter one. Some Pokemon have amazing shiny colour palettes like Charizard, Rayquaza, Gyarados, Umbreon, Luxray, and Ponyta, while others have extremely ugly colours which are widely hated like Lucario, Moltres, Solgaleo, Kommo-o, Onix, and of course all the Pokemon that are barely distinguishable from their regular forms. But the most common and despised type of shiny of them all, the green ones. There are well over 100 green shinies, ranging from eye-bleeding neon to sickly pale green, and almost all of them are loathed by the fandom for their unappealing colours. But why are there so many green shinies? Well, during the older generations when the pixel art was far simpler, instead of having artists recolour the Pokemon, they would simply have the game switch a shiny Pokemon's palette to the next suitable one in the game's code. This is why Clefable and Wigglytuff, who have similar regular colours, were assigned similar shiny colours, and why a lot of blue Pokemon have pink shinies. This random palette selection changed from Sun and Moon onwards as the franchise switched to 3D and artists began manually colouring shinies. But this is actually a very common misconception, as there's no evidence to suggest any kind of shiny picking algorithm in the code of the game. In fact, one user looked at the debug menu of Gold and Silver and found the colour palette editor containing both regular and shiny palettes alongside several RGB sliders. This suggests that developers manually adjusted the Pokemon's shiny colours using these sliders, since there would be no need for such an editing tool if the shinies were decided by an algorithm. Unfortunately, while it's easier to believe that terrible shinies like these were the haphazard work of an algorithm, real people chose these colours. Let that sink in. Cubone. Cubone is infamous for being one of the most depressing Pokemon in the franchise. Its Ruby Pokédex entry reads, quote, "Cubone pines for the mother it will never see again. Seeing a likeness of its mother in the full moon, it cries. The stains on the skull the Pokemon wears are made by the tears it sheds." It's also noted that the skull it wears belongs to its dead mother. Yay! But that's not all. A popular fan theory states that Cubone was actually meant to evolve into Kangaskhan. The two bear a striking resemblance to one another, from their beige-brown colouring to the round pattern on their stomach to their similar eye shape to, of course, the perfectly Kangaskhan-shaped skull that Cubone wears. It's alleged that Nintendo thought this evolution line was too dark, since it would mean that every Kangaskhan was fated to die and be worn as jewellery by its infant child, so they split the evolution line, making Kangaskhan into its own Pokemon. Many believe that switching the Pokemon around at a late stage in development caused the code to scramble and resulted in the infamous missing note and M glitch. In fact, if the player levels up the glitch Pokemon M, it has a slight chance of evolving into a Kangaskhan. The theory is still hotly debated though, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think. Pokemon is satanic. This entry simply refers to the fact that Pokemon has frequently been labelled as an evil and satanic game. Since the game features magic, fantastical settings, violence, and evolution, it has been the target of numerous Christian groups who feel that the game is leading children down the path of Satan rather than God. Believe it or not, this belief is still pretty common today, and there was a sharp increase in articles and discussions on the topic in 2016 with the viral popularity of Pokemon Go. If this adorable little guy is Satan, well, maybe I don't want to be holy. Pokemon eat each other. This theory has been around since the dawn of the series, and it's always touted as this like super dark, mind-blowing, childhood ruined moment. Countless clickbait articles with this image have been posted going off about how dark and not kid-friendly this series is because people eat Pokemon. Interestingly, this particular image is actually taken from an episode where Ash and friends are stranded at sea and imagining all the ways they could eat Magikarp, so this cooked Magikarp is actually just a figment of their imagination. However, several other Pokemon are canonically known to be hunted and eaten. Farfetch'd are depressingly known for being delicious when cooked in their own leek, Barraskewda is described as surprisingly tasty, children used to eat Appleton's skin, and there's a whole in-game plot about harvesting Slowpoke tails. Hunting and poaching is also canon in the Pokemon universe, especially in regards to shark Pokemon like Sharpedo and Gabite, who are hunted for their fins and scales respectively. Similarly, there are many Dex entries that mention Pokemon preying on each other, such as Pidgeot eating Magikarp and Pelipper eating Luvdisc. As I said, this used to be a really big, shocking, dark, childhood ruined fact about Pokemon since the series is meant to be G-rated, but it's honestly not really shocking because well, trainers gotta eat. The Pokédex makes it pretty clear that Pokemon hunt humans on the reg, so hey, we're entitled to a little Magikarp as a treat. Mew under truck. Back in the early days of Pokemon, the internet wasn't very widely accessible, so plenty of ridiculous and far-fetched, pun intended, rumors were spread on the playground. One such rumor was that the legendary psychic type Mew could be found in Pokemon Red and Blue underneath a truck in Vermilion City. This was, and honestly still is, an incredibly popular hoax that a lot of people believed, but it was just that, a hoax. Mew was in the game's code and obtainable through glitches and hacks, though these would often put the player's game file at risk of corruption. The only legitimate way to get Mews were through competitions and events, and adorably trainers who were given Mews were also given these awesome certificates of authenticity with the Pokemon's ID number on it. That's not like a creepy fact or anything, I just thought that was really cool. The Pokemon War. The Pokemon War, also known as the Kanto War, is an event that fans speculate may have taken place years before the start of Pokemon Red and Blue. The most overt clue comes from Lieutenant Surge in Vermilion City, as his dialogue reads, quote, "You won't live long in combat, that's for sure. I tell you what, kid, electric Pokemon saved me during the war." Additionally, there's a notable lack of middle-aged characters in the game, with most NPCs being kids, teens, or elders. Red doesn't have a father and Blue doesn't have parents at all, and it's argued that a violent war would explain the lack of adults in the game. It's also been proposed that the network of underground tunnels in Kanto were bomb shelters or trenches, and the excessive number of gyms and Pokemon centers were remainders of the wartime. Ultimately, while the Kanto War is just a fan theory, canonically there was a war in Pokemon, which is an interesting concept that maybe Nintendo will expand on in a future game. The concept of war will come up in the Iceberg again, so make a note of it. Ancient Mew. Ancient Mew is a limited edition card from the Pokemon trading card game. The card is multicolored and covered in strange runes, and was handed out with a small insert telling the owner to go to a Pokemon trading card league near them to fill in the blanks and earn prizes. It was handed out during the first week of the theatrical release of The Power of One and came standard with a movie ticket. The artist of the card is unknown, and is one of the only two cards to be banned from the standard and unlimited trading card game since it's written in Runic and not English. Illegal Pokemon. Illegal Pokemon can refer to multiple different things. There's a list of Pokemon which are considered illegal in competitive battles, though predictably they're all legendary and mythical Pokemon. There's also a list of Pokemon cards which are banned in the trading card game, usually because of balancing issues, but sometimes for strange reasons like offensive artwork, as is the case with the Jinx and Misty's Tears cards. Lastly, illegal Pokemon can also refer to hacked or glitched Pokemon, which players can be banned for if they're found to be trading or using them in online play. Gengar is Clefable's shadow. This theory might seem crazy considering how starkly different these two Pokemon are, but when you look closer, the two have more in common than you might think. Both have extremely similar body shapes right down to their pointed ears and spiky/curly hair and tails respectively. Gengar is known as the shadow Pokemon, and its name is supposedly derived from the word doppelganger, so it's proposed that due to their physical similarities, Gengar is actually the ghostly shadow of a Clefable. Other theories propose that Gengar is a dead Clefable or its evil clone. Hypno Creeper theory. This theory's been around for a long time, and even I remember being terrified of it as a kid. Known as the Hypnosis Pokemon, Hypno was a psychic type introduced in the first generation. Its Fire Red Pokédex entry reads, quote, "It carries a pendulum-like device. There was once an incident in which it took away a child it hypnotized. This led fans to theorize that Hypno was a child kidnapper and even a creep, if you catch my drift." The situation got worse when the Pokemon Center released a t-shirt design known as Sleeper 097, which depicted a humanoid Hypno leading two children by the hand. Since then, fans have spent countless hours making hyper-realistic grimdark Hypno images and even writing fanfic, with the creepypasta Hypno's Lullaby going viral within the fandom for its disturbing depiction of the Pokemon. This was referenced as an Easter egg in Ultra Sun and Moon, with a school journal in the game reading, quote, "I stayed at school playing until really late and then a Hypno appeared. The new kid went home with the Hypno. Apparently the Hypno came to pick her up." The child in question is later revealed to be a Zorua in disguise as a kid, but that doesn't change the fact that a Hypno was apparently waiting until after school hours to lure kids away. Sorry to those who like Hypno, but it still creeps me out to this day. Coma theory. Basically every piece of kids media has some dark fan theory about how the characters were dead the whole time or in a coma, and the Ash's coma theory was basically the blueprint for this entire trope. If you remember seeing this piece of artwork everywhere, you get a veteran's discount. In the first episode of the anime, while fleeing from a flock of Spearow, Ash crashes his bike and is shocked by Pikachu, which fans argue caused Ash to fall into a coma. The theory states that every episode and movie after this is just a figment of Ash's imagination. While the theory is fun, it's basically just a cheap spooky story and far from the only coma theory in kids media. Shinies before the internet. This entry simply refers to the fact that kids who either didn't have access to the internet or who played the games before the internet was commonly available often have funny experiences with shinies. Many saw the strange colors of the Pokemon and turned the console off thinking it was a glitch, while others thought that the Pokemon was sick and ran away from the battle. Naturally, nowadays they cringe at the thought, but the game never really explains what shinies are or how rare they are, so their reactions were understandable but pretty hilarious. Hex Maniac Ghost. The Hex Maniac Ghost is found in Pokemon X and Y when entering the second floor of one of the office buildings in Lumio City. When the elevator opens, the music will stop, the lights will flicker, and a Hex Maniac character model will appear behind the player. She'll move towards the bottom of the screen with a frozen walking animation before stopping to say, "No, you're not the one," and exiting off screen. Fans have come up with plenty of theories. She's looking for a trainer with a certain ID number, she's an Easter egg that a developer slipped into the game without permission, and of course she's a vengeful deep web creepypasta spirit who's gonna appear in your bedroom at 12 AM, ooh! In a Kotaku article on the topic, Patricia Hernandez noted that there's a special page dedicated to the Hex Maniac Ghost on the Japanese Pokemon website, and it drops some interesting clues. It includes a screenshot of another NPC in the game who can be found in the haunted house by Route 14 and will tell you a scary story. After telling you the story, he'll ask for a tip and tell you that if you refuse, you'll see something really scary. I've searched around and haven't been able to find any confirmation that tipping the NPC actually affects whether you see the ghost or not, so if any of you guys have tried this, definitely let me know down below. The Japanese website makes several other connections to the NPC's story and the Hex Maniac Ghost, and though fans speculated that this was hinting at an upcoming event, no such event ever occurred. For now, the mystery of the Hex Maniac Ghost remains just that, a mystery. Woman's secret. In Pokemon Black and White, when challenged by a swimmer, her dialogue will read, quote, "If I'm wearing a bikini, where do I put my Pokeballs? Teehee, woman's secret." Additionally, in Sun and Moon, one swimmer remarks, quote, "It's tough fetching Pokeballs from my bikini." These weirdly X-rated pieces of dialogue in an otherwise G-rated game answer a lot of questions about Pokeball storage that I didn't ask and didn't want to know. Buried Alive. Buried Alive is a popular creepypasta. In the story, the player finds a grotesque corpse model model within the game's files, which appears as the final boss at the top of the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town. When encountered, the model is called Buried Alive and has a Gengar, a Muck, and 2 white hands as Pokemon, and don't worry, we'll touch on white hands soon. If the player wins, the game will freeze, but if the player loses, Buried Alive will make a comment about there finally being fresh meat before an image of the creature eating the player appears on screen. This is a pretty well-known creepypasta, and many people still believe that Buried Alive was an actual character model found within the game. Though it's pretty impressive that it got so many people to genuinely fall for it, Buried Alive is nothing but a work of fiction. Mew 3. With Mew and Mewtwo being 2 of the most popular and beloved Pokemon in the entire series, it's natural that fans have theorized about the existence of Mew 3. Though there are plenty of fan designs out there for the hypothetical legendary, there has actually been a canonical Mew 3 cameo in the comics. In the Pocket Monsters manga, Red's Clefairy transforms into Mew 3 after its DNA is merged with Mew 2, creating this abomination. Red's Clefairy does eventually change back, but the trauma from witnessing this thing will last forever. Pokemon Black and Blue. Pokemon Black and Blue was a parody game created by the animal rights organization PETA as a way to protest Pokemon games. The highly controversial group, known for their shock marketing tactics, pushed the idea that Pokemon games encouraged animal abuse since the Pokemon are kept inside Pokeballs and forced to fight each other. In the short Flash game, Pikachu and a variety of other beaten down Pokemon team up and fight crazed humans who want to capture them. The game has been criticized as a lazy attempt to shock people and drum up controversy, as well as ride off the coattails of a popular IP as they've done with other games like Mario. Mindy's Haunter. In Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, there's an NPC called Mindy who will offer to trade a Haunter for a Medicham. This is a pretty good deal since Haunter evolves through trading, so it's a great way to get a Gengar if you don't want to go through the hassle of online trading. However, when the trade is complete, Mindy will comment, quote, "Haha, did my Haunter turn into something else? Just kidding, I made it hold something that prevents it from evolving." It turns out that Mindy gave her Haunter an Everstone, an item that prevents Pokemon from evolving. This infamously unfair trade has united Pokemon fans in their fiery hatred for Mindy, with the subreddit r/fuckmindy gaining over 18,000 followers. The subreddit is pure gold with posts like, "Who is the most annoying NPC in all of gaming? I think we all know. Gengar is my favorite Pokemon, so a big fuck you, Mindy. I found a redeemable quality Mindy has. Just kidding, fuck Mindy." Peekaboo. Before the release of Pokemon Gold and Silver in 1999, several promotional shorts, screenshots, and pieces of artwork were released featuring the water and now fairy-type Marill. Since Western audiences got a lot of these images and videos from Japanese websites and blogs, or just completely out of context, they didn't know the Pokemon was called Marill. They instead dubbed it Peekaboo, as fans thought that the Pokemon was an evolution or pre-evolution of Pikachu, though this was quickly disproved when the Pokemon's English name was revealed. White Hand. White Hand is a Pokemon creepypasta which is basically just Buried Alive but with a dismembered hand instead of a zombie guy. The legend goes that a sprite called whitehand.gif was found buried in the code of Pokemon Red and Blue and was supposed to be an encounter within the Pokemon Tower of Lavender Town. The hand has 4 animations, an introduction, an idle, and 2 attack animations called Fist and Brutal. While Fist is a standard attack animation, Brutal is strange, with the hand opening before the image cuts out and the hand returns to normal a few frames later. Unfortunately, these gruesome details were the creepypasta's undoing, as Pokemon Red and Blue didn't actually have battle animations at all. It would be years before Pokemon games were advanced enough to display the kind of animations detailed in the White Hand legend, so consider this myth busted. Banned episodes. There are actually quite a few episodes from the anime that have been banned for various reasons. Electric Soldier Porygon is the most obvious example, being banned after airing only one time in Japan, but there are plenty of other examples. A huge number of episodes were banned in South Korea for containing overt references to Japanese culture, which seems kind of inevitable when it's a Japanese series. Beauty and the Beach was banned because James wore an inflatable bodysuit that gave him breasts, as well as featuring a gross old man creeping on Misty. Episode 35 was banned for heavily featuring guns, including scenes where the Safari Zone warden Kaiser aims a gun at Ash's head and shoots one at Team Rocket. Holiday Hijinks was banned because it prominently featured Jinx, a highly controversial Pokemon that was criticized for resembling a racist stereotype. And Tentacool and Tentacruel was banned shortly after the September 11 attacks, as it featured scenes of Tentacruel destroying a city and the skyscrapers in it, though it later began to air again on Cartoon Network. Marvelous Bridge Ghost. On the Marvelous Bridge in Pokemon Black and White, you can occasionally see the sprite of a young girl who will disappear when you walk towards her. An older lady nearby will reveal that the young girl used to play around the area with her Abra before the bridge was built. Pokemon Black and White 2 expands on the story, as the ghost can be found in the strange house and will say, quote, "An everlasting dark dream. an endless stream of darkness. Dad, Mom, Abra, where are you? Eventually the ghost gives you the lunar wing and asks you to return it to the legendary Pokemon Cresselia. It's theorized that the girl was killed by Darkrai, who was mentioned in a book within the strange house as driving people away with terrible nightmares, which matches up with the girl's dialogue about an everlasting dark dream. In contrast, Cresselia is described as having wings that shine like the crescent moon and keep nightmares away. It seems that unfortunately the girl never got the lunar wing to Cresselia in time and was instead trapped inside a never-ending dream by Darkrai. Galarian fossil abominations. This simply refers to the fossil Pokemon from Sword and Shield, which are canonically abominations and crimes against nature. Unlike other fossils in the series which come in one piece, there are 4 sets of fossils in Galar that you have to fuse together to create Pokemon with completely mismatched top and bottom halves that look like they're in pain. Dracovish's Shield entry reads, "Its mighty legs are capable of running at speeds exceeding 40 miles per hour, but this Pokemon can't breathe unless it's underwater." Arctovish's entry casually mentions the fact that it can't eat prey because its mouth is on the top of its head, and when the head of the ridiculous Dracozolt is put on the ice-type body of Arctozolt, the top half takes on a sniffling frozen appearance, and the Pokédex mentions that the poor thing is constantly shivering. Basically, these things are in constant pain and you're a monster for creating them. Also, the fossil scientist who fuses the Pokemon is literally called Carolus. Drifloon kidnaps kids. While Drifloon may look like an adorable balloon, the Pokemon has a dark side. Its Sun Pokédex entry reads, quote, "Stories go that it grabs the hands of small children and drags them away to the afterlife. It dislikes heavy children." Other Dex entries mention Drifloon's affinity for children and that children who play with it sometimes go missing. This was further elaborated on in Legends Arceus, where one quest tasked the player with helping a young boy who was being held hostage by a Drifloon. GS Ball. In Pokemon Crystal, the GS Ball, also known as the Gold Silver Ball, is a pretty simple item. It's given to the player as part of the story and can be used to spawn the mythical Pokemon Celebi. However, the GS Ball is far more mysterious in the anime. It was first introduced in the 81st episode of the Pokemon anime at the start of the Orange Islands arc as an item of great importance, with characters placing a lot of emphasis on the ball's unique and mysterious design. The writers had set up the GS Ball as the super exciting mystery that would be revealed in the climax of the arc, and then the ball was left with Kurt and never spoken about again. While the mystery of the GS Ball has persisted within the fandom, there is a simple explanation. The writers of the show planned to have Celebi come out of the GS Ball and join Ash's team, but they decided instead to save Celebi for the movie Pokemon Forever. Halfway through the series, they tried to quickly write out the ball that they'd been hyping up in hopes that fans would simply forget about it, but they never forgot. Gary's Raticate. In Pokemon Red and Blue, you face off in a Pokemon battle against your rival Gary on the SS Anne, where his team consists of his starter Pokemon, a Pidgeotto, a Kadabra, and a Raticate. However, next time you encounter him in the Pokemon Tower in Lavender Town, he's standing among the graves and asks the player if they know what it's like to have a Pokemon die. In the battle, Gary's Raticate is nowhere to be seen, leading fans to theorize that the player killed Gary's Raticate on the SS Anne and he's burying it in the tower when the player meets him. While this was a super popular edgy theory back in the day, it's pretty much been debunked. As far as I can tell, Gary never actually asked the player about dead Pokemon, with his dialogue instead reading, "What are you doing here? Your Pokemon doesn't look dead. I can at least make them faint. Let's go, pal." This seems more like competitive banter than a child mourning the loss of his beloved Pokemon. It's also worth noting that Gary states on the SSN that he caught over 30 Pokemon, so it's likely that he simply switched his Raticate out for something else at the PC. He also states that he came to Lavender Town to catch Marowak, which explains why he's there in the first place. Thankfully, Gary's poor, useless Raticate will live to see another day. Space World Demo. This entry refers to an early pre-release version of Pokemon Gold and Silver, which was shown off at the Nintendo Space World video game trade show in 1997. The demos were actually lost media for a really long time, existing only in the form of scattered images and the recollection of those attending Space World. However, out of the blue, they were anonymously uploaded to the internet in 2018. This was a huge find, as the demo contained multiple better areas and minigames, as well as 100 never before seen Pokemon sprites, some with completely unused or altered designs. The fire and water type starters were completely new, and adorable Pokemon like, and please excuse my pronunciation, Kotora, Porygon2, Erebibi, and Animon were widely praised and memed on by fans for the hilarious and cute designs. Personally, I'm sad that this guy never fully made it into the game. I love deep sea fish, so a Gulpari dragonfish type Pokemon would have been awesome. I highly recommend checking out the Space World demo Pokemon yourself. All of the art is great, and it's fun looking at all of the similarities and differences between the demo Pokédex and the final product. Endangered Lapras. This entry refers to a heartwarming Reddit post that has circulated around the internet for a number of years. The Emerald Pokédex entry for Lapras reads, quote, "People have driven Lapras almost to the point of extinction. In the evenings, this Pokemon is said to sing plaintively as it seeks what few others of its kind still remain." In reference to this entry, Reddit user Diego D. Alvarado wrote, quote, "As a kid, I spent hours breeding Lapras and releasing them because the Pokédex said they were almost extinct. This is equal parts adorable and heartbreaking, but it turns out that this Reddit user's efforts may have paid off. Many years later, upon the release of Sun and Moon, Lapras's Pokédex entry read, quote, "They've been so cherished that there's now an overabundance." Wally's death. Wally is a rival character from Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire and is described as a sickly young boy. His illness is talked about often and he's shown coughing a lot, which has led players to believe that Wally's final battle with the player actually represents the character's death. When encountering the character at the end of Victory Road, he's surrounded by red flowers, which Reddit user Mercurial Mithras pointed out were eerily similar to red spider lilies. A legend about the flower's symbolism reads, quote, "Some legends have it that when you see someone you may never meet again, these flowers, also called red spider lilies, would bloom along the path. Perhaps because of these sorrowful legends, Japanese people often use these flowers in funerals." Some have interpreted this literally as Wally succumbing to his illness, but since he can be battled in the post-game and appears alive and well, this has been mostly debunked. Others have interpreted the flowers more metaphorically. They may represent the death of the old Wally as he transforms into a more powerful trainer and eventually recovers from his illness. Coronet Highlands Graveyard. This entry is pretty simple. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, there's a graveyard in the Coronet Highlands where you can find ghost Pokemon lurking around at night. Nothing too special about this, I just honestly thought it was pretty cool. Climate change. This entry simply refers to the fact that various regions in the Pokemon universe have begun to exhibit noticeable signs of climate change and pollution. In Sword and Shield, Galarian Wheezing represents the pollution emitted from factories and cities, and Corsola, a water rock type, has become a ghost type in its Galarian form as it represents coral bleaching due to global warming. N is a Zoroark. A popular fan theory proposes that N, a fan favorite character who features heavily in Pokemon Black and White, is actually a Zoroark. Zoroark has the ability to create powerful illusions, and it's been shown in both the anime and the games that Zoroark can speak through its human illusions. With this in mind, there's actually a fair amount of evidence that points towards N being the illusion of a Zoroark. Firstly, N is an orphan who was supposedly raised in the forest by Pokemon. There are only two forests in Unova, Pinwheel Forest and Lost Lawn Forest, the latter of which is where you find a Zoroark who is pretending to be a human trader. He also has the ability to communicate with Pokemon, which makes sense if he is one himself, and we can find an item that is covered in Pokemon scratch marks in N's chamber. In Drifell City, when using the memory link on a Zoroark to look into its memories, the player can watch a scene where two Team Plasma grunts are talking before it's revealed that N was hiding behind a wall and eavesdropping, which begs the question, how could this be a memory of Zoroark's if Zoroark itself was never in the scene? Unless of course Zoroark and N are one and the same. In another scene, the player follows a Zoroark through N's castle before losing track of it and finding only N at the end of the pursuit. N doesn't use Pokeballs, so it seems odd that the Zoroark would run off and abandon him suddenly, so many believe that Zoroark transformed into N to meet the player. N's hair shape is also similar to that of a Zoroark's. N sideways is Z, and Getsus refers to N as not having a human heart. Personally, I don't think that N was intended to be a Zoroark, but rather a human that was heavily shaped by the Zoroark that raised him in the wild as a child. However, it's still my number one favorite theory in the whole series because N being a Zoroark would be really cool. What's under Mimikyu's cloth? Mimikyu is a ghost fairy type Pokemon introduced in Generation 7. Its Pokédex entries from Sun and Ultramoon respectively read, quote, "Its actual appearance is unknown. A scholar who saw what was under its rag was overwhelmed by terror and died from the shock. A gust of wind revealed what hides under this Pokemon's rag to a passing trainer who went home and died painfully that very night." In the anime, Meowth sees Mimikyu's true form and is knocked out before waking up in a terrifying dark hallway that he appears to be dreaming or hallucinating. Though Meowth thankfully survived, the episode raised more questions than answers about what's under Mimikyu's cloth and why it's so deadly. Latiazakin. This entry refers to an early piece of concept art which depicts a trainer riding upon a Pokemon that looks to be a mishmash of the Generation 3 Fire-type starter Blaziken and a Psychic Dragon-type legendary Latias. This Pokemon's design incorporates elements of both and was later split into two separate Pokemon for unknown reasons. Moss Deep Rocket Counter. Moss Deep Space Station was a location in Pokemon Ruby and and Sapphire. A scientist at the space station would comment to the player how many successful launches they'd had, with the number changing over time. Rumors spread that this was a counter of some kind, and if the scientist reached a certain number, the players would be able to ride the rocket to face Deoxys or Jirachi. However, this counter simply tracked how many weeks the player had been playing for, with 1 week equaling 1 successful rocket launch on the counter. Kabutops and Genesect. This entry refers to the theory that the Pokemon Kabutops and Genesect are actually related to one another. Not only do they have an almost identical body type with bladed arms, a broad flat head, and similar body shapes, especially in regards to the chest markings, but their Pokédex entries seem to link them. Kabutops' pre-evolution Kabuto has an entry that reads, "It is thought to have inhabited beaches 300 million years ago. It is protected by a stiff shell." Genesect's entry reads, "This Pokemon existed 300 million years ago. Team Plasma altered it and attached a cannon to its back." The eerie similarity between the appearances combined with the extremely specific 300 million year date has led players to believe that Genesect is a Kabutops that has been mechanically altered by Team Plasma. Bad Egg. Bad eggs are glitched eggs that can appear in Pokemon games as a result of cheating or hacking and exhibit strange behavior. Bad eggs rarely hatch and can't be released, though if forced to hatch through hacking, a question mark will come out and the game will freeze. The egg can also hold items, somehow. There are ways to remove bad eggs from your party, but for the most part they're a pain to get rid of and not really worth having in the first place. Trans character censored. In Pokemon X and Y there's a trainer called Beauty Nova that can be fought in the Battle Maison. I was a Karate King just half a year ago. The power of medical science is awesome, wouldn't you say? The Karate King is a strictly male trainer type, with the female equivalent being called a Battle Girl. This, alongside her comment about the power of medical science, proves that Beauty Nova is a trans woman. However, in the English version of X and Y, Nova's dialogue reads, quote, "Yes, a mere half a year ago I was a black belt. Quite the transformation, wouldn't you say?" Once again, in the English version, male trainers of this class are called black belts while females are called battle girls. It seems that for unknown reasons the English version has somewhat censored or at least made it a little bit less clear that Nova is trans, which is disappointing. Pokemon Pink. In early 2020, source code from the game Pokemon Yellow was leaked, and data miners found evidence that suggests Nintendo was working on a sister game for Pokemon Yellow called Pokemon Pink. Information is scarce, but it's been speculated that Pokemon Pink would have been Nintendo's attempt to appeal to a female audience with the female trainer and a Clefairy as the box Pokemon. However, this is all just speculation. Glitch City. Glitch City is a glitched area, obviously, which is accessible by entering, saving, and resetting, and then leaving the Safari Zone in Generation 1. It's a little more complicated than that, but the general gist is that when you leave, the Safari Zone step counter will still be running, and wherever you are on the map when you reach 500 steps will become an accessible glitched area. Glitch City is essentially just a corrupted version of various areas in the game which players can access, and it's just another example of Red, Blue, and Yellow being a bit of a mess when it comes to code. Bill's Garden. In Pokemon Red and Blue there's a garden behind the scientist Bill's house that looks suspiciously like a path that might lead somewhere. Rumors began to spread that if players could somehow get to the other side of the house and follow the path, they'd be able to access Bill's Garden, which contained legendaries and all of the starter Pokemon for players to catch. However, when players hacked into the game to access the area, they found nothing. Fear-stricken Xatu. This entry refers to Xatu's Pokédex entry, which reads, quote, "Xatu stands rooted and still in one spot all day long. People believe that this Pokemon does so out of fear of the terrible things that it has foreseen in the future." Interestingly, Xatu isn't the only Pokemon who suffers as a result of their ability to see the future. Gothitell's Pokédex entry reads, quote, "It can see the future from the movement of the stars. When it learns its trainer's lifespan, it cries in sadness." Dead humans are Pokemon. This entry refers to the numerous Pokédex entries found throughout the games that refer to human souls or dead humans becoming Pokemon. Here are a few examples. After a woman met her end on a snowy mountain, her regrets lingered on. From then this Pokemon was born. Its favourite food is frozen souls. Each of them carries a mask that used to be its face when it was human. Sometimes they look at it and cry. It happened one morning. A boy with extrasensory powers awoke in bed transformed into a Kadabra. These Pokemon are stumps possessed by the spirits of children who died in the forest. Their cries sound like eerie screams. So yeah, next time you assemble your team of adorable critters, know that some of them might be the tortured souls of dead humans waiting to take revenge on you. Raikou. Raikou is an early piece of concept art for the Generation 2 Gold and Silver games which depicts a Pokemon who resembles both Raikou and Suicune. The Pokemon has the color palette and body type of Suicune, but also has an electrical motif and stark black markings like Raikou. For unknown reasons, the design was split in half in order to create two separate Pokemon. Indian Elephant / Raichu/Leviton theory. As strange as it sounds, Indian elephants have actually been a meme in the Pokemon community for a long time. In Raichu's Fire Red Pokédex entry, it claims that the Mon can topple an Indian elephant with its electricity. The apparent confirmation of both India and Indian elephants in the otherwise fantastical Pokemon universe was amusing and quickly became a joke. However, with the recent release of Legends Arceus, it appears that this factoid has been retconned, as Raichu's entry now reads, quote, "It can discharge bursts of electricity exceeding 100,000 volts. A single strike with that amount of power could incapacitate one of the Copperaja of my homeland." While some believe that this is a reference to Galar, the region that Copperaja is from, the Pokemon's Dex entry actually suggests that it came to Galar from another region. This seems to imply that Professor Leviton is from a never-before-seen region which may be similar to India, and this may actually be a hint towards a future game. Mega Evolution is painful. Mega Evolution was introduced as a mechanic in the 6th generation and allows Pokemon to temporarily transform into powered-up Mega forms. While these forms are extremely cool, a lot of the Pokédex entries of Mega Evolution seem to imply that this transformation is physically and even psychologically painful. Mega Evolution places a burden on its body. The stress causes it to become all the more ferocious. When it Mega evolves, it becomes more vicious than ever before. Some say that's because its excess of power is causing it pain. Due to the colossal power poured into it, this Pokemon's back split right open. Its destructive instincts are the only thing keeping it moving. Bathed in the energy of Mega Evolution, the gemstone on its chest expands, rips through its skin, and falls out. These are just a few examples, and you'll find disturbing details in most Mega Evolution entries detailing the Pokemon's painful transformation, blinding rage, and loss of control. So yeah, maybe think twice before using Mega Garchomp next time. Or don't, because let's admit it, that guy is super cool. Psychic type weaknesses. Psychic type Pokemon are weak against Bug, Ghost, and Dark types, which represent 3 common phobias: bugs and insects, ghosts, and being in the dark. Psychic is also strong against fighting types as a nod to the saying brains over brawn. And that's where we're gonna leave it for today. Once again, I really do apologize for having to split this into 2 parts, but the second part should be uploaded very soon and contain the rest of the entries in the iceberg. Please do stay tuned for that. I usually never say this in videos, but if you do want to be updated about when the second part comes out, you can subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified about when it comes out, but you can also just, I don't know, check in a week or so when the next part will be uploaded. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope that you're enjoying this topic. If you have any future suggestions for video topics you want me to cover, definitely let me know down in the comments. And yeah, thank you guys for bearing with me. I hope that you enjoyed the video and will enjoy the next one coming out next week. And yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye! Thank you so much to my Garfield overlords over on Patreon: Sheriff Whiskey, Trevor Zonde, Xavier Araujo, SHSL Sunsun, Greg Gunderson, Sophie Skedder, Simon, Dozo Blint, Redmeth, The Furby Librarian, Matt LRJ, Ren Pendragon, Astrian Vortex, Joe Bradshaw, Jordan Nielsen, John Leach, Helm Hamburger Hand, Chicory, Tyson, Kimono Maijiro, Pom, Dana Homegardener, Arcantilus, Jesse Chisholm, Charlie B, Brianna Robinson, Boysenberry Switchblade, Finley, and Ginkgo Fox, Agarafin, Doug, and Samsung account. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it. If you want to join these guys over on Patreon, the link will be in the description. And yeah, thank you guys so much for supporting me and watching my videos. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video, hopefully. Bye!